For days before the divorce papers hit my desk, my husband moved over $1 million into an offshore account. Quietly. Cleanly. He thought I'd never find it. But I did. We ran a real estate firm together. Built it from nothing. Or at least, that's what I used to tell people. Now? Now I say we built it with me doing the books, the hiring, the late-night filing, while Jeff posed for local magazine covers and learned how to flirt with women half his age in open houses. I'm Sarah. I'm 42, have 2 degrees, and until recently, I thought my marriage was the kind that went the distance. Sure, we had friction. We'd been together 16 years. Friction's part of the deal. But theft? Lies? Offshore accounts? That's another level. It wasn't sudden. He didn't storm out. There wasn't some explosive fight with suitcases and screaming. It started with small things. Jeff stopped letting me run payroll. Said the assistant could handle it from now on. He claimed he wanted me to focus on the client experience, whatever that meant. Then he started working late more often. Commercial clients, he said. Big money. And when I'd call? Straight to voicemail. I chalked it up to stress. A market slump. I told myself marriages hit rough patches and we'd smooth it out. But the night I found her car in our driveway at 10:34 p.m., that was the moment I stopped lying to myself. Rachel. 29. Licensed 3 months ago. Pretty in that performative Instagram way, shiny hair, fake lashes, dead behind the eyes. I'd been at dinner with my sister. Pulled into our driveway expecting silence. Instead, I saw Rachel's Lexus. Parked crooked, engine still warm. I stood in the driveway for a full minute before going inside. She wasn't in the foyer. Not in the kitchen. I found her upstairs in Jeff's home office, barefoot, sitting on the edge of his desk like she owned it. Oh, hey, she said, like we were roommates. I was just helping Jeff with staging ideas. I remember looking down at her feet. Red nail polish. One chipped toe. The same shade I saw on the bathroom floor last week. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. Jeff came around the corner with a glass of wine in his hand like nothing was wrong. You're back early, he said. Nope, I said. Right on time. And I walked out. I didn't ask questions after that. I started observing. Rachel wasn't just a fling. She was careful. Slippery. She'd delete client files by accident. Reschedule closings at the last minute, always when I wasn't there. Once, she told our lead agent, "You don't have to be smart if you know how to be useful." I watched her take up space. Slowly. Strategically. The way weeds take over a garden. But I still wasn't ready for what happened next. The envelope came on a Tuesday. Plain manila. No return address. I thought it was office mail until I saw my full legal name printed across the front. Inside, petition for dissolution of marriage. Filed by Jeffrey L. Parker. Grounds, irreconcilable differences. No note. No heads up. Just paperwork. I read it 3 times. Then I laughed. Not because it was funny, because if I didn't laugh, I'd scream. We hadn't even argued in weeks. And suddenly, he's dissolving 16 years like it was a gym membership? That wasn't the worst part. Buried inside the paperwork was a box checked, "No community property in dispute." I blinked. Then blinked again. What? Our brokerage, Parker and Green, was community property. We'd built it together. I filed the LLC paperwork myself. And now suddenly, it's not up for dispute? I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my laptop until sunrise, combing through the financials. And that's when I found it. Over $1 million. Exactly $1,038,672. 73, transferred from our business account to a numbered offshore account in the Cayman Islands. The transfer date? 4 days before he filed for divorce. It was clean. No red flags. Hidden behind a dummy shell corporation called Golden Sand International. He was getting ready to leave me, and rob me. No goodbye. No fight. Just a withdrawal slip and a blank face. I stared at the screen until the lines blurred. This wasn't just betrayal. It was strategy. It was premeditated. He'd played me like a fool. Like someone who'd be too emotional or too stupid to catch on. And the worst part? I'd signed off on half the documents myself. Buried in stacks of paper, he rushed me through with lines like, "It's just vendor updates, babe," or "We're streamlining some back-end stuff." He knew I trusted him. He knew I wouldn't read the fine print when we were watching Netflix and I had laundry in the dryer. And now? Now he had everything. The business. The new girl. The bank accounts. I was just a signature on old paper. But here's the thing Jeff never understood. I don't scream. I don't break dishes. And I sure as hell don't forget. Because by the time he served me those divorce papers, I'd already started pulling the thread. And I wasn't going to stop until the whole damn suit came undone. The night I left our house, I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't even shut the door hard. I just picked up my laptop, one small suitcase, and the red folder labeled Corp Contracts, 2014 to 2023. I walked out quietly and drove across town to a rental apartment I paid for in cash. The unit was small, creaky floors, stained grout in the shower, smelled faintly like dust and discount detergent. But I chose it on purpose. It was anonymous, temporary, and exactly the kind of place someone like me disappears in. I didn't tell my friends. I didn't tell my family. I didn't leave a note. I just went quiet. And that silence? It was the loudest move I'd ever made. By the time Jeff got home and realized I was gone, I was already logged into the admin dashboard for Parker & Green's document management system, downloading every signed contract he hadn't looked at in years. My access was still active, he hadn't thought to change it. That was his first mistake. I spent that night exporting every file with his signature on it, every tax form, every rental ledger, every petty cash request and bonus schedule from the past 6 years. I dumped it all into an encrypted drive and labeled it simply, Fuel. The next day, I deleted my personal social media accounts. The brokerage's website removed my bio quietly, probably at Rachel's request, and that suited me just fine. I didn't need to be seen. I needed to move. I forwarded all email from my business inbox to a private archive before the IT guy finally disabled it. I already had what I needed. Rachel could have the shiny desk and the fake plants. I wanted what was under the floorboards. Rachel took my seat faster than I thought she would. She didn't change the signage on the office, but she started calling herself Director of Brand Strategy on LinkedIn, even though she didn't know how to read a P&L. I saw a post where she tagged Jeff in a picture with the caption, "Finally, a workspace with focus." Just a side comment. But I knew what she meant. Jeff's office had always been cluttered, with my documents, my systems, my mind. She wasn't just moving in. She was erasing me. Their first podcast episode dropped 2 weeks after I left. Luxury Real Estate Unlocked. I only listened to the first 10 minutes. Jeff opened by talking about the early days of the business. "I started with nothing but drive and a dream," he said, like I'd never existed. Rachel laughed off mic and added, "And no one to slow you down." The audio crackled, but I caught it. I paused the episode and stared at the waveform on my laptop. Then I closed it, copied the audio file, and dropped it into the folder labeled Fuel Media Assets Timeline. I wasn't angry. I was archiving. I kept walking every morning, 6 blocks past the flower shop, around the block where our first client lived, past the bakery where Jeff proposed. Then I'd come home, brew coffee, and keep working. I wasn't strategizing revenge, not exactly. I was documenting. Building a legal library. Matching his timelines against mine. Cross-referencing financial statements with internal memos. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do with it all yet, but I knew one thing: you don't start a fire by waving your arms. You start it by finding dry kindling, then waiting for the right wind. Around the third week, something changed. Jeff sent an email to our real estate attorney. I know because a copy was accidentally forwarded to a vendor we both used for property contracts, and she sent it to me, confused. Did Sarah ever mention the LLC restructure back in 2021? He asked. We're trying to confirm if her signature was legally necessary for some of the partnership clauses. I read that line 4 times. Then I sat back and smiled for the first time in weeks. He was starting to realize something was off. I didn't reply. I just added it to the folder, Fuel Paper Trail Disputes. A few days later, one of the junior agents from our team posted a photo of Jeff shaking hands with a local developer, captioned, "True leadership means knowing when to evolve. So proud of the next chapter at Parker and Green." The comments were full of praise, fire emojis, and one particular sentence that stayed with me: "Some men really do outgrow their partnerships." I screenshotted it and labeled the file fuel_38_comment. PNG. I didn't get upset. I didn't get bitter. I saved it like a receipt. Rachel started making mistakes, small but telling. She accidentally deleted 3 years of CRM contacts during a data cleanup. Claimed she thought the backup server was automatic. She told one of our longest-standing clients that a listing had expired, even though I'd auto-renewed it through Q1. She laughed about it in a follow-up email, writing, "Oops. Growing pains." I forwarded it to myself and filed it. One of the assistants texted me on the side. "Hey. Just wanted to say it's weird without you here." She doesn't know what she's doing. Jeff pretends she does. Nobody's buying it. I didn't respond. But I took a screenshot and saved it under Fuel Witnesses Team Support. From the outside, they looked golden. They hosted a rooftop party for their top clients. Jeff posed with Rachel in matching navy outfits. She wore a white jumpsuit with a cutout back. I studied the photos online and saw something in Jeff's eyes that didn't quite match the smile on his face. He looked tight. Not nervous, but aware. Like someone waiting for a shoe to drop, but unsure which direction it would fall from. Then, a lawyer he used to consult with for minor deals sent him an email asking for clarification about a 2020 file. It was a small clause, some language about ownership rights in the event of an equity dispute. I only knew because I wrote the clause myself. The lawyer CC'd me by mistake. "Do you recall signing off on the proportional disbursement language for Property Fund Number 4? Jeff mentioned it was reviewed jointly with you." I didn't reply. But I printed it, highlighted the date, and dropped it into Fuel Legal Triggers red flags. The cracks weren't obvious. Not yet. But they were there. And Rachel, for all her curated confidence, was starting to show signs of pressure. One agent mentioned she lashed out over a missing login file, accused someone of sabotaging her calendar, even though the Google logs showed it was her own error. She reportedly told Jeff, "I think Sarah left some kind of mess behind." I loved that. The idea that she thought I'd left crumbs by accident, like some chaotic ex-employee instead of someone who built the entire damn bakery. Still, I stayed quiet. I didn't call anyone. I didn't correct the record. I didn't engage. But every night, after my walk and my tea and my deliberately quiet dinner, I would sit at my table, open the folder, and keep working. Time, as it turns out, wasn't my enemy. Time was my alibi. My shield. And, as of last night, my final missing ingredient. Because when they dropped their second podcast episode, Leveraging Partnerships Without Getting Burned, I was already sitting on 3 filed motions, 5 notarized statements, and a timestamped backup drive containing every signature Jeff thought I'd forgotten about. You wouldn't think a newsletter could start a fire. But by the time Jeff read the headline, his hands were already shaking. It was just a weekly real estate roundup, cheap layout, dry font, no ads, but in the center of page 4, someone had written a single question: are boutique firms getting too fast, too loose? It wasn't an exposé, not exactly, but it hinted at deals gone missing, misfiled disclosures, and quietly reassigned clients. Parker and Green was mentioned, briefly, but directly. One botched inspection. One cancelled sale. No names. Just enough smoke to make people start sniffing around. I didn't write the article. But I knew who fed the reporter the thread to pull. After it hit inboxes, the first client email came in less than an hour later. I know because the assistant who used to work under me, still quietly loyal, forwarded a redacted copy. The subject line read, "Need clarity before moving forward with listing." That's when Jeff started sweating. I wasn't watching from a distance. I was collecting. Cataloging. Updating the folder daily. But even I didn't expect what happened next. Rachel posted a selfie that night, all gloss and defiance, captioned, "Not everyone knows how to stay in their lane. But I do." It stayed up for 26 minutes before she deleted it. I grabbed a screenshot. Her tone wasn't professional. It was nervous arrogance dressed up as control. That was the first time she cracked in public. The podcast episode they'd been promoting for weeks, about luxury property pivots, vanished from their platform the morning of release. Their Instagram posted a story blaming upload delays, but I knew better. The distributor had received an anonymous tip 2 weeks earlier about misleading language regarding rental cap loopholes. I should know. I wrote the tip myself. When the podcast finally re-uploaded, 10 minutes had been cut. Rachel's voice was nowhere in it. And Jeff? He started emailing. "Hey. I know we haven't spoken, but I wanted to ask, are you aware of anyone raising concerns about past filings? Some chatter's picking up and it doesn't match what I remember signing. Just trying to get ahead of anything." I didn't reply. But I watched for a second message. It came 7 minutes later. "Actually, never mind. We'll figure it out." Sent from my iPhone. No sign-off. No punctuation. Just raw nervous energy slipping out from behind the mask. The next day, someone spotted me. I had stopped outside the brokerage, not to go in, just to look. Same street I'd walked every week. But this time, someone must have recognized me. That evening, a blurry photo showed up on a local real estate Facebook group. No caption, just my back, facing the building. Comments poured in beneath it. "Is that Sarah Green? She's been gone a while, right? Weird she'd show up now." The post was deleted after an hour. But I saw it. I saved it. Labeled it, "Fuel Risk Spotted _001. JPG. That was my first ping of exposure. But it didn't change my pace. It confirmed it was working. Rachel, on the other hand, was spiraling faster than Jeff noticed. She removed her job title from LinkedIn entirely. Word reached me that she snapped at a junior agent during a client call, accusing them of deliberately feeding bad data into the CRM. The CRM she crashed 2 weeks earlier during her own data cleanup. She tried to update the website again, rebranding herself as Director of Strategic Development. The font didn't match. The photos still had my face in the background. Her hands were all over things she didn't understand, and the smudges were becoming obvious. One of our oldest clients posted a throwback photo on Instagram with Jeff, captioned, "Some people rise. Some just replace." It wasn't meant to be deep. But it echoed. And then, the gala. The Regional Real Estate Excellence Gala was one of those overfunded, overhyped events that tried to turn tax-deductible networking into black tie theater. Jeff was supposed to be the star. Innovator of the Year. He'd told a few people it was practically a formality. I wasn't invited. But I didn't need to be. I had the livestream link. The moment came halfway through the program. The MC was smiling too hard. The camera panned to the podium, music swelling, spotlight warming the empty stage. And next, our Innovator of the Year award goes to. There was a beat. Too long. The screen behind him glitched once, then froze. Someone from the crowd let out a confused cough. A woman in the front row turned toward Jeff's table. The MC blinked. His smile faltered. Then, without explanation, the show moved on. No name. No plaque. No applause. Jeff disappeared. I knew exactly what had happened. Someone from the selection committee had been alerted, likely through a clean packet of documentation about a failed 2020 deal and the subsequent non-disclosure of a lawsuit that was sealed and settled. Nothing illegal. But enough to cast doubt. Enough to pause. Enough to embarrass him publicly in a room full of handshakes and champagne. Back at the office, someone else had started asking questions. A new compliance rep, young and overeager, contacted me directly. Hi Ms. Green, sorry to bother you, but your name is listed on a partnership restructure from 2021 and the state database shows conflicting signatures. Could we confirm which version is correct? I didn't answer. But I flagged the email and added it to Fuel Legal Triggers Active Pings. That was the second brush. They were circling. But I had control. I had timestamps. I had originals. If they wanted confirmation, they'd have to subpoena it. And by the time that happened, the damage would be done. The next morning, Jeff sent another email. Sarah. Look. If you're behind this, I need to know. You don't want this to get ugly. I don't want this to get legal. We can fix it. Let's just talk like adults. Please. I read it 3 times. He misspelled my name in the subject line. Sarah. He CC'd our old business lawyer, then unsent the message. The cracks weren't just forming anymore. They were audible. Rachel stopped posting altogether. I heard she took a personal week, though no one called it that officially. One of the newer agents leaked an email where Rachel blamed external sabotage for client attrition. She never said my name. She didn't have to. I filed the screenshot under Fuel Attribution Defensive _language. PDF. Jeff's final email came a week later. Short. Broken formatting. No punctuation. Just tell me what you want. I didn't reply. And Jeff? He finally felt it. It didn't happen all at once. That's the part one wants you to understand. It didn't explode, it unraveled. Quiet at first, like a slow leak in the wall. But then the wall gives. And when it does, it takes the ceiling with it. The first thread snapped with a leaked memo from the state licensing board, circulated to industry heads, tagged in comment sections, dissected in real estate Twitter threads. It named Parker and Green as under formal investigation for repeated contract discrepancies and potential misrepresentation of asset conditions. No legal conclusions, no hard evidence. Just enough language to make every agent within 50 miles hesitate before taking their call. From there, things moved faster. I watched their biggest commercial client walk, publicly and with a prepared statement. Their email was clinical but devastating. In light of recent reputational risk factors, we will no longer pursue future projects with Parker and Green. Translation: Jeff wasn't just losing money. He was losing credibility. That was the real currency in our industry. And his tank was bone dry. I could have left it there. But I didn't. Because 3 weeks earlier, I'd filed a sealed motion in family court, backed by a forensic report prepared by a specialist who, once upon a time, had cleaned up after a failed real estate syndicate I helped untangle. It included emails, transaction logs, bank transfer trails, wire instructions, and the names of 2 shell companies tied to an offshore account in the Caymans, one of which had Jeff's signature as managing partner. The motion alleged that Jeff violated our court-ordered marital asset freeze when he moved $1 million outside U.S. jurisdiction 4 days before serving me divorce papers. It stated clearly that the action was intentional, concealed, and executed for the purpose of asset shielding. The judge read it twice. Then she set a date. Emergency hearing. No continuances. Both parties required in person. I arrived early. Sat quietly near the front. Wore a plain navy suit. No makeup, no heels, no jewelry. Jeff walked in 10 minutes late, disheveled but trying to hold composure. His lawyer looked like he hadn't slept in days. What happened in that courtroom wasn't a show. It wasn't designed for drama. But still, there was a moment. The judge flipped to Exhibit 4, the bank transfer log, and turned it to face Jeff's side of the table. She didn't raise her voice. She just asked, "Can you confirm your name and the date on this document?" Jeff didn't answer at first. He blinked. Then he leaned forward and squinted at the page like he'd never seen his own name before. When he finally spoke, it came out cracked and small. I don't recall authorizing that." She looked back at him. "Your signature appears on the transfer order." He didn't deny it. He just reached for the water glass with both hands, trying not to spill it. That was the moment. Right there. His hands shook. And not once, did he meet my eyes. The ruling came fast. All accounts frozen. All assets reevaluated. Offshore holdings ordered for immediate disclosure under contempt threat. And a new order issued. I was entitled to a 50% share, calculated post-recovery, with penalties assessed. He'd have to sell part of the business just to cover what he owed me. And even then, the court still had authority to pursue criminal referrals if he failed to comply. The courtroom buzzed as we filed out. His attorney didn't speak to him. Neither did Rachel. Speaking of Rachel, she didn't make it to court. She was never formally named, but one of the compliance reports I quietly provided included a timestamped CRM log she'd accessed just before 3 client files were mysteriously altered. She wasn't listed as having permission to edit. Her credentials were flagged in the audit. I didn't accuse her of anything. I simply sent the report to the right inbox and let it do its job. A week later, her real estate license status changed to inactive. A former coworker told me she'd applied for a brand consultant role at a boutique firm out of state and got turned down before the second interview. Word was, she was going by her maiden name again. The last photo I saw of her wasn't a beach vacation. It was a tagged image from someone else's party. She looked tired. And very much alone. Jeff, for his part, tried one last message. A voicemail. I recognized the desperation before I even hit play. "Sarah. Look, I don't even know what's happening anymore. They're freezing everything. The board is panicking. If you're doing this, just stop. Please. You got what you wanted. Just stop." He was wrong, of course. That wasn't what I wanted. What I wanted was for him to feel what I'd felt the day that manila envelope hit my desk. The day I realized the man I built an empire with didn't just stop loving me, he erased me. As if I were a liability. A line item. A burden he could shed before launching his next chapter. What I wanted was to stand on equal ground. And then watch him fall from it. After the verdict, I passed him on the courthouse steps. He was standing just off to the side, on his phone, pacing. When he turned and saw me, he paused. For a second, he looked like he didn't recognize me. Like the woman who used to do payroll and expense reports had turned into something he couldn't outrun. We locked eyes for half a second. He opened his mouth to say something, but nothing came out. I didn't stop. I walked past. Calm. Steady. And that was enough. I didn't gloat. Didn't post about it. I didn't even tell anyone outside my immediate legal team. I just went home, closed the last archive folder, and started over. I used part of the settlement to fund my own firm. Quietly registered it under a trust, one Jeff had once tried to liquidate when I wasn't looking. I hired 2 former analysts, a branding consultant, and a tech specialist who helped rebuild the back-end tools Jeff never learned how to use. I called it Green and Company. We didn't launch with a party or press. Just a clean website. A direct message. And an inbox full of former clients ready to follow. I didn't need to erase Jeff to win. I just had to make sure his erasure of me had consequences. And now? Now I don't walk past his building anymore. I own one 4 blocks away. The tagline on our website reads, "Built to last." Underneath that, in small print? He buried the money. I rebuilt the empire.